Hi there, today I'm going to show you how to make this pretty beaded heart. It doesn't only have beads on it, as you can see, but that's what I'm calling it. And this is a Christmas version that I'm going to make here because I've made several before and I want another few to add to my Christmas decorations this year. And I thought as I was making one, I'd show you how to make one too. So the first thing that I'm going to do is cut a length of 22 gauge wire, and I'm just fashioning a heart at the beginning, and this really is just an idea of size and shape of the heart. You don't need to be too particular at this stage because it is going to pull out of shape as you start winding the beads onto the heart. So I'm roughly making a heart shape, and I'm just joining it together at the top by twisting the wire around itself. I think you might have trouble seeing this, so I'm going to work on a white background so that you can see what I'm doing. And I've just fashioned a rough heart shape, and I've just twisted the centre so that it stays together at the top of the heart. You could make your heart in any colour combination of wire that you want to, but I'm going to be using this because I quite like the look of the sort of industrial looking wire colour against the pretty beads. Now what you need to do is make sure that you start working with a piece of wire that's manageable, because we're going to be threading it round and round the shape of the heart, and you need a collection of beads. So I'm picking blues and browns for my heart because that's the colour combination I want to finish up with, but you could use any colour combination of beads and sequins and buttons, and I'm going to put little bells on mine too. So get them together so that you've got a few handy, because you want to create a random look of beads around your heart. So if you've got them handy already mixed up, it does help you be more random, if that makes sense. Now while my wire is long, and you do need a decent length of wire but not enough so that when you're flicking it about it's dangerous, but all you're going to be doing is threading on beads, and you just want to do it in a random order. Sometimes you might just put on one bead, sometimes you might put on a little group of beads, and then you're going to push them up to your wire heart and then wrap the wire around your heart. And I tend to do it 2 times and then create another little area of interest with a sequin or a bead or a button. It's entirely up to you. So as you travel around the heart, wrapping the wire around the heart shape and adding on your beads and buttons intermittently as you go, don't worry about maintaining that heart shape. As long as it stays joined together at the top, that's all you need at this stage. Another little tip is to keep all your little beads and things in a tray, because it's quite easy to send them flying across your desk and you end up with no beads left to put on your heart. So in the interests of keeping them all together, I suggest you just use some kind of little tray while you work. I've finished my first row and I'm going to reshape the heart. And I suggest a top tip, particularly if you're going to make more than one heart, is to draw a sketch of the size and shape of heart that you want to end up with. And obviously the more beads or rows of beads that we add to our heart, the more stable this shape becomes and the more it will hold its shape as we wind the wire and beads around it. So after the first layer you're going to reshape it. Don't worry again if it goes out of shape as you begin your second row, but gradually as it gets stronger it will maintain its shape more and more. So I'm starting off my second row. As you add your second row of beads, you want to pay attention to what beads you've got either side of it, and you do want to create a random pattern. So perhaps if you've had a large bead, you want to add a group of small beads, or if you've had lots of blue beads, you might want to add a brown bead, etc. So really look at creating a nice random effect, and all of the little beads that I'm adding this time will sit somewhere in the gap that I've got on my wire heart after the first row of beads. That is, if I can actually get the bead to go on the wire. That could be a while. Because I'm pretty sure you don't want to watch me add all of these beads and all of these wraps of the wire around the heart shape, I'm just going to give you the edited highlights. So this is row number 2 taking shape. And as I got further round on row 2, I started to use up my wire. So I'm going to explain to you now what you do when that happens to you. So once you get to the last little section of wire and you've threaded on your last bead, or as I'm doing here, a bell. You just want to tightly coil that wire around the heart shape, and that just finishes it off and keeps it in place. And then you do exactly the same. I like to tuck it into a bead, tuck the end of the second lot of wire round and under a bead, and then begin or carry on wrapping around the heart shape. And you'll find that when you've got the wire at its longest, it's the most difficult to manage, and then as your wire gets gradually shorter, it becomes easier and quicker to add the beads onto your heart. So I'm carrying on now with row number 2. Now each time as you get to the top of your heart, make sure that you do add a couple of beads around that joined section so that it's not bare wire. So I do wrap the wire around that little section where the heart joins at the top before I carry on, as I'm doing now, with my third row of adding on beads and sequins. Now as you get to the end of row number 3 and your heart's really filling up nicely now with all those lovely sparkly beads, you'll find that your heart is also maintaining its shape the more layers you add to it. Now as you finish off row 3, and don't forget to add those beads to that centre joined section, you're going to come up slightly as you begin row number 4, and you just need to get yourself into the right position to create the little wire or piece of wire that we're going to put or thread the ribbon hanger through. So you can see here roughly where I'm going to take the wire back across to the other side of the heart. I'm going to wrap it round once and bring it back into position, ready to carry on with row number 4. Now as you can see, I've created, by doing that, a little area of wire that's perfect to add your ribbon hanger to. I'm just nipping them together to make sure they're nice and neat, and then I'm going to show you, before I carry on with row number 4, I've got this bit of sparkly ribbon, and I'm going to show you at the end of the video how it threads through this little piece of wire and is fashioned into a hanger for your heart. There you go, nice close-up of roughly where you're going to do that on your heart shape. And now I'm just going to carry on, and I'm really going to make this heart luscious with this final 4th layer of beads and sequins. I'm calling row 4 the final layer, but really if you found when you get to the end of row 4 that you want to add a few more beads and sequins and make it a really chunky heart encrusted with all these goodies, then you can do so. You know, it's entirely up to you, but I'm going to stick with the 4 layers as that's what I've had on my previous heart shapes. So once you get to the end of your final row of adding beads and sequins to your heart, then you just want to make sure that you secure the end of that wire by wrapping it around the heart shape so that those final beads don't fall off. And then once you've trimmed off any remaining length of wire, you can just gently tease that into the perfect heart shape, and I like to turn any of the buttons that I've added to the front of the heart. So now we're going to make the ribbon hanger, and I use roughly about a 10-inch length of ribbon, and again coordinate it with the heart that you've made, and you want a length of cotton or embroidery thread. I'm using a blue embroidery thread, and I'm just using 3 strands, and I'm going to use a button to secure the bottom of the hanger into place. So I folded my ribbon in half through that wire loop that we created between row 3 and row 4, and then I'm just stitching a button into place to hold the 2 ribbons together. I'm making sure that I finish the cotton off on the inside of the 2 pieces of ribbon, and then I'm folding the 2 raw ends of the ribbon in on themselves and using a second button to finish off the top of the hanger, again stitching the button into place. tied off your thread, you just want to take it to the inside of the 2 layers of ribbon and just trim off the ends. Now you can decorate your heart however you wish, or just leave it plain as it is here, but I quite like to add a length of ribbon diagonally across my heart shape, and I'm just tying it on one side and then coming and tying it on the other. Just be a little bit careful that you don't pull your heart out of shape as you do this. And then I'm just going to take my scissors and trim the ends of the ribbon. I've punched out a glitter board star to match my heart, and now I'm going to cut out a freehand heart shape in a matching patterned paper. And as you can see here, I've inked the edges of the small paper heart, and I've stamped a Merry Christmas greeting onto a thin strip of the same or a coordinating paper, which I'm also inking the edges of. And then it's a case of joining them together and stitching them to the heart. So I'm beginning by creating some stitch holes in the star and in the greeting strip. And I'm going to begin by attaching the greeting to the star, and I'm using the star a bit like a button. I almost added a bead to the centre of the star, but I thought better of it because I wanted it to look more like a button. So I'm attaching those 2 pieces together, and then I'm going to attach the heart in the same way. And I'm just slightly offsetting the heart, as you can see here. And then I'm going to stitch it to the knot part of the ribbon on the top section of the heart, so that the greeting strip follows the direction of the diagonal ribbon. And then once your elements are stitched into place, just tie off and trim off the embroidery thread on the back of the heart, and I'm just making sure that that greeting strip follows the same path as the ribbon that we tied across the heart earlier, and then you have one finished beaded Christmas decoration. Now you may not want to do a Christmas decoration, but if you did, you could easily make this in red, green and gold, or silvers and blues, and you might want to do something like this. This was the first heart that I made. As you can see, it's less encrusted with beads, but it still looks nice, and it's made in the colours of my bedroom. And then this one's a little bit of a romantic gift that I gave to my husband on our 28th wedding anniversary. I love making these cute little beaded hearts. They make fantastic home decor items and very thoughtful gifts. As you can see here, my husband loved his romantic beaded heart. Now, if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, you may notice I've finally managed to change the angle of my camera, and all this time I've been focusing on some kind of fancy rig that would put my camera the right way up, when all the time there was a little button in iMovie to press that would flip my video and do the job at absolutely no cost whatsoever and no effort. I got there in the end courtesy of my friend Helen. Thank you very much for sending me that link to the tutorial that showed me just how to do it, and I hope that you enjoy this angle from now on. So if you don't subscribe and you've enjoyed this video tutorial and want to see more, don't forget to press that button, and I've also got a blog if you care to join me over there for more creative adventures. So all that's left for me to say is see you again soon, and thank you for watching.